Hello, my name is Daniel Sullivan. I'm a professor of law. I specialize in information privacy law.
I teach and write about the subject, and I provide computer-based training on privacy and data security to companies, schools, hospitals, and many other organizations. In this video, I will discuss 5 things that school officials must know about privacy. Not only do big companies and government agencies have a lot of personal information, so do schools. Schools have the most sensitive personal information about students and employees. That's why I urge you to not only pay attention to what I say in this video, but also to take action. So here we go. 5 things that you must know about privacy. 1. Protecting privacy involves much more than following FERPA. Many schools have some knowledge of the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, known as FERPA. When I talk to school officials about privacy, they invariably talk about FERPA. FERPA just covers a fraction of the privacy issues facing schools. It says very little about surveillance, searching electronic devices, or computer use. It says little about data retention and destruction, or data security. FERPA provides only the most minimal guidance about the use of cloud computing services. FERPA only covers the data of students, and it doesn't cover data gathered about alumni, donors, employees, or applicants. FERPA isn't the only law dealing with privacy in schools. There are numerous state and federal statutes and regulations that apply to schools, as well as tort law and constitutional law. FERPA is just one piece of the pie. 2. Just because software and services can do something does not make it legal. In 2008, a public high school in Pennsylvania provided Apple MacBook laptop computers to its approximately 2,300 high school students. To track computers reported stolen or missing, school officials used software that enabled them to capture a photograph from the computer's webcam of whatever was in front of the screen. School officials activated the software nearly 200 times on various computers. They captured tens of thousands of images. Parents were outraged when they found out about it. They took it to the media. The incident spawned a firestorm of negative publicity. Students who had been subjected to the surveillance brought a class action lawsuit against the school. The school paid millions of dollars in legal fees and settlement costs. A congressional subcommittee held hearings, and the FBI and state officials even launched criminal investigations. How did this happen? The school officials who turned on the cameras never consulted with the school's attorney. They just thought they could use the software. So don't assume that because it is sold on the open market, that it is advisable or legal to use it. If you want to use a service, don't use the service without fully understanding the terms of use. The terms of use matter for every service you use. 3. Someone must wear the privacy hat. Schools need someone who is responsible for privacy. That's because privacy is very complicated. There are numerous laws and regulations of privacy, and so many threats. Did you know that searching an electronic device might be a criminal violation of federal or state laws? Many laws that regulate unlawful access to computers are very broad in scope and apply to any device connected to the internet, so they apply to all smartphones. Searching these devices without consent can be a violation of these laws, and there is no exception for school officials. Many school officials I've spoken to have no idea that these laws apply to them. This is just one example why someone must focus on privacy. In most other industries, organizations have what is called a Chief Privacy Officer, or CPO for short. Schools have as much personal information as other organizations and face privacy issues of great complexity, yet most school districts lack CPOs. A CPO keeps up with the law and regulations affecting the organization, conducts risk assessments, ensures that all employees are appropriately trained, and is available for consultation about privacy issues that arise. This last part is critical. People need to have someone to call if they have a question about privacy. 4. Protecting personal data is your responsibility. and it remains your responsibility when third parties are using data you shared with them. Some people mistakenly think that if they share data with a third party, then that entity is solely responsible. The buck always stops with you. You can't escape responsibility by turning over your data to others. It is your responsibility to make sure that those you share your data with will properly protect it. Be careful in choosing third parties with whom you share your data. For example, not all cloud service providers are the same. Some have good privacy practices, some don't. Before using a cloud service provider, you should make sure you know how it stores data, protects data, and where the data is stored. One risk is that a cloud service provider can outsource some functions anywhere in the world to countries that have little to no privacy protections. When contracting with a third party to share personal data, you should make sure that the contract has sufficient provisions to ensure that the data is protected. You must make sure that third parties agree to maintain the confidentiality of data and that they agree to follow whatever privacy laws you're regulated by. Make sure that third parties destroy all personal data whenever you terminate your relationship with them. Make sure that third parties have appropriate training of their employees. When you sign up for online services for school use, make sure the provider only uses students' personal information for the intended educational purposes. Online service providers must ensure that student data is secure and not shared, and make sure that if the third party doesn't live up to its obligations, that you have the appropriate sanctions in place. 5. Members of your school community should be educated about how to protect their data. Educating students is essential to help students understand the consequences of their activity online. In one poll, 70% of parents believe schools should educate students about protecting their privacy on the internet. Educating parents is also of vital importance. Parents need to know the dangers and challenges facing their children. And educators need to be educated too. In conclusion, I recommend that schools need to take some big steps forward on privacy. To review, here are the 5 things school officials must know about privacy. Protecting privacy involves much more than following FERPA. Just because software and services can do something does not make it legal. Someone must wear the privacy hat. Protecting personal data is your responsibility, and it remains your responsibility when third parties are using data you shared with them. Members of your school community should be educated about how to protect their data.